Howdy, y'all. The following is a clip from a show called On Our Last Nerve. Watch it on Objectively Subjective's channel and catch it every Friday at 7 p.m. Central Time. And also be sure to subscribe. We have some wonderful co-hosts on the channel, #Heathen and Faithless Southerner. Make sure to subscribe to them too. They're awesome. I hope y'all enjoy. Alright guys, we need to have a serious talk about the problem of some of the leading voices in the current atheist movement. But for now, I want to highlight one in particular. Sam Harris. Now, before you get up in arms, okay, I have adored Sam Harris for a long time now. His book Free Will absolutely shook me to the core about my choices, my personal choices that I make. It was absolutely a mind-blowing book. And I cannot deny Harris's ability to communicate ideas, whether they're right or wrong. He's effective. And in a way that seems really smooth and rather convincing. However, these past few months that I've been kind of, paying attention to Harris, my perspective changed. And it changed because he aligned himself with the skeptic Carl Benjamin, an anti-feminist, fascism-supporting 9/11 truthers, conspiracy theorist blowhard who sent British MP Jess Phillips a "I wouldn't even rape you" tweet simply because she dared to say that rape threats online were bad. You see, Carl got his Patreon account terminated for, being Carl and not giving a fuck about what kind of vile crap spews from his filthy mouth. And during this, many of the boom of free speech people lost their damn minds about this, even though terms of service at Patreon clearly state they ain't having that shit on their platform. And Harris was one of those people, even going so far as to close his own Patreon account in solidarity with this asshole. For me, that was the final straw in a series of many instances I overlooked because of my own adoration for Harris. Let me explain. Some time ago, perhaps a year or so, my memory's a bit fuzzy, but I was reading his blog and I found an article entitled, "I'm Not the Sexist Pig You're Looking For." Brilliant. This startled me, but it also piqued my interest, so I read the blog, where he claims he is taken completely out of context by a Washington Post reporter. If you're getting a Jordan Peterson vibe from this, you're not alone. Here's a portion of what he said. I also asked Harris, or a portion of what the article said, rather. She had also asked Harris at the event why the vast majority of atheists and many of those who buy his books are male, a topic that has prompted some to raise questions of sexism in the atheist community. Harris's answer was both silly and provocative. "It can only be attributed to my overwhelming lack of sex appeal," he said to huge laughter. "I think it might have to do with my personal slant as an author, being very critical of bad ideas. This can sound very angry to people. People don't just like to have their ideas criticized. There's something about that critical posture that is to some degree intrinsically male and more attractive to guys than women," he said. "The atheist variable just has this. It doesn't obviously have this nurturing, coherence building, extra extrogen vibe that you would want by default if you wanted to attract as many women as men." He goes on to bemoan the ridiculous paranoia engendered by political correctness, as he usually does on his podcast and any other medium where he communicates. He also shrugs off the idea that he's sexist because, of course, he was raised by a single mother, has daughters, has a wife, and works with women, and he knows women. Gee, where have we heard that before? I have a black friend. Anyway, despite this obvious sexism, I overlooked it. I didn't call him out on it because of not only blind adoration, but also not really wanting to suffer the backlash from other adoring atheists. That was the first problem that I ignored, but it only got worse. He's made loads of Islamophobic comments where he paints it as the ultimate threat against the West. Hint, this is a dog whistle term for white people. And it lobs all Muslims as though altogether, as though they are all extremists because the Hadith and Quran are inherently violent in doctrine. This is an unfair assessment since, just like the majority of Christians don't advocate stoning gay people, the majority of Muslims are not in favor of violent jihad. I overlooked this as well, time and time again. I also turned a blind eye to his podcast with Douglas Murray, who, much like Franz Joseph Gall, the father of the pseudo-scientific study of phrenology, is cited by racists to justify the bullshit idea that white people are superior to other races, except for maybe Asians. Now, why the actual fuck would a person give a platform to someone who offers racist justification for their ideas? Maybe he wants to just discuss the ideas and offer pushback. You know, sunshine cures the virus or whatever the hell. But does he push back? No. Does he act irresponsibly with his platform and offer racists a safe place to feel vindicated for their disgusting ideas? Yes and fucking yes. It seems to me, for a leftist who's all about inclusivity and justice, Sam Harris seems to attract all sorts of riffraff, and his rhetoric seems to match up a lot with things mentioned in that, manifesto, that piece of shit terrorist responsible for killing 50 people in New Zealand recently. I refused to face this before. That is, like I said, until he locked arms with Carl skipping away from Patreon. This, for lack of a better term, was my waking up to Sam and his agenda. He cares way too much about what racist, sexist, Islamophobic assholes think, and not enough about how his rhetoric serves as fodder to those who would act violently toward other people. There's way more that I can say on this, including Sam chuckling with glee at a transphobic rant by Douglas Murray, claiming that he only wishes he could communicate with such ire. But there's just not enough time to address all the horrible shit that Harris engages in. So I would like to point out that Steve Shives made a video about this, speaking out against this slime in his recent video, which offers all the evidence for these things that I've claimed, and quite frankly articulates how problematic his rhetoric and actions have been way better than I ever could. Definitely give that a watch and see for yourself. I'll be posting a link in the chat soon, and you can see just exactly how shitty Harris is. While he may have a good argument here or there, and has written some helpful material for many people, for a neurophilosophical speaker, he has proved himself to me as irresponsible with his reach, and this has devastating consequences. It just does. I've been in Sam Harris Facebook groups that are full of lots of racist, misogynistic pricks. That was where I was kind of introduced to the atheist community, and I dared to say I'm a feminist, and they called me the word that rhymes with punt. So I've seen this damage firsthand. Not all, but many of his fans are shitty people. And this is directly caused by how he uses his platform. So what do y'all think? Am I right or am I wrong? Or no,
so on this, I do want to say, like with free will and some of the stuff that Sam Harris has produced, you can say, this is a great book, but I kind of think that this person's a shitty person. They're right in this area, but they're wrong in a lot of other areas. And being one of the four horsemen of the new atheists, saying anything like this is basically heretical in certain groups. But yeah, we need to be able to question. We need to be able to see what the motives are, why this person is doing this. And throughout time, Harris has done a lot of good things. but he's also done a lot of bad things.
Yeah.
And we need to be able to say, hey, stop doing the shit that you're doing over here that's fucked up, and, own it. And then we can get behind you.
That's the thing. He doesn't own it. He just says, I can't be a sexist because I have a wife and I have a single mother. No, dude. Reflect on this.
So, hashtag, you were going to say something?
No, I was just going to say, the whole idea of, I'm an atheist, ergo, if you have the title atheist, I'm just going to agree with you no matter what. I don't think so. I mean, that's like me saying, if you're a woman, I'll agree with you no matter what. Or if you're in the veterinary field, I'll agree with you no matter what. That one qualifier is not enough. And it's situational. Everything should be situational.
Yeah. It's situational. And the idea that women's minds are far too sensitive and nurturing to be able to understand atheism and to escape the faith, that to me is just,
oh my God, that pissed me off.
It's ridiculous.
I overlooked it because free will blew me away, and I was just
no. And I will say, Free Will was still one of the most mind-blowing books I've ever read. But at the same time, I see things that he's done, whether he's sharing out links, supporting horribly homophobic churches or groups. Now he did retract it later, and then kind of went on to justify it and say that he really didn't need to retract it, and this is paraphrasing, because then he was like, what's so bad? Is being against gay marriage now hate? And that's not what this group was. They're very, very, very hateful. But I know Evans really has liked Harris in the past. I'd like to get his thoughts.
No, I think my relationship with Harris has always been, and anybody that's spoken with me on this past, I've always referred to him as a mixed bag, because waking up I found to be very nifty for me as somebody that enjoys things that we would commonly conceptualize as spiritual experiences. The Free Will book, absolutely fantastic. I think that everybody should read that.
Oh yeah.
And I think that Lying was another, just absolutely everybody should read those two, and they're more essays than anything, right? And I currently use his mindfulness meditation app. It's really well put together. The lessons on there are enlightening, like Free Will and other things are. But then you have this other side of Sam Harris that's kind of outside of his. I look at his professional field, right? Like his books and things like that. The End of Faith was but there
was problematic things in that book.
It made good points and it made terrible points. It's kind of like a Hitchens book. And that's the way that he's always been. Some of his criticisms of Islam are spot on. Some of his criticisms of Islam are absolute garbage.
Yes.
And so again, he's such a mixed bag. And so, I mean, it's one of those things, and it's the mindfulness, the meditation app, right? It's really well put together, and it's got a monthly subscription fee to it. But if you can't afford it, you can send his staff an email and they'll give it to you for free, because he think this is something that should be out there. And that's on the store page. And so, and then so he's such a mixed bag. And recently, because I watched, I think it was one of his podcasts with Joe Rogan. I think it was his last podcast with Joe Rogan.
Oh, Lord.
That the reception of the mindfulness app has been so overwhelmingly positive that nobody's had anything negative to say, and that he really feels like he's helping out people, and he's got emails and just this outpouring of support, and he put, it was a labor of love, and he put time and effort into it and everything else. And he made some comment like, maybe that's just what I should do from now on, is just focus on the things that help people.
Yeah.
And
maybe.
I thought, yes,
Yes.
do
Maybe
that.
that's what you should do.
Maybe that's, and then he went on to say, but I think that, you know, some of the controversy that I've caused has done good things or something like that. I'm paraphrasing at this point in time. I thought, no,
Oh my
no,
God.
don't do that. Can you just spend all your time? So, I mean, I enjoy some of what Sam does. I've always been critical of other things that he does. I mean, he's a mixed bag.
Yeah.
I think
and I do want to address something because I'm not sure if it was addressing what we said here, but no one on this panel is saying that you can't be an atheist and be, you know, a misogynist or any of these other things.
No.
I happen to know a lot of atheists who are kind of shitty people.
Yeah.
So you can totally be an atheist and be a good person or be an awful person. The same way
that, fact, my second topic will address this.
Exactly.
So stick around.
All right. Excellent.
Wait, I do want to highlight one thing. Okay. And that is the idea that a lot of times whenever you offer criticism for a prominent atheist, what will happen is you will get a dog pile of a bunch of other atheists who are offended that you dared to question this person. It happens all the time. It's happened to me a lot. So don't deny it. So we need to really get out of this church mindset. It really feels a lot like church whenever you question the dear leader. And I'm really tired of it.
It does happen.
Really tired of it.
And it should stop.
Instead of dismissing the criticism, maybe take a look at that criticism and ponder it, maybe make some changes. There's nothing wrong with self-reflection, and there's definitely nothing wrong with actual criticism. The hatred is a whole other thing. Saying that all Muslims believe that violent jihad is necessary because it's inherent in the religion, fuck off. Like, no.
Well, I did want to bring up that I've you know, that it's something to remember, because a lot of YouTube and a lot of atheist content out there is, well, the Bible says this. The Bible says stone the gays, and yes, it does.
Yeah,
but hold on. At the same time, the majority, like you said, of Christians today do not believe that. They have changed that to where that's no longer a part of their theology. And the same thing goes for Islam. There are a lot of Muslims out there that just, they're a part of the Muslim faith. They're not looking to take over the world. They're not looking to spread Islam by any means necessary. They're not violent. And we need to remember that over time, people can change. And there is a group out there that is seeking to reform Islam. And so, you know, we need to be open to people who, we don't want to vilify entire groups.
Right.
And I've been guilty of this myself. So I own that completely, but we don't need to vilify entire groups of people in order to get our message across.
Agreed. And I do want to highlight another thing that I think is important is, while Sam Harris might have said some very good things, he said a lot of bad things too. And, you know, a Christian could come up and say, hey, well, you know, Jesus said to feed the hungry and to love your neighbors. So, I mean, if we're going to dish it out and not take it, I think that's unfair. I really do. I think that criticism and critique in the atheist community needs to be embraced, and it needs to be, if we want to actually be a positive movement for atheists, for other atheists, that's what we should do. We should be open to critique.
Agreed.
So, I don't know if y'all have noticed or not, but there have been some interesting things happening with milkshakes in the UK lately. And yeah, it's been fucking hilarious, at least in my opinion. But there's some people that aren't too happy with it, which is kind of weird. And the first one that got my attention was Sam Harris, and I lost the damn. Oh no! I know I had it open.
It was the stream's fault.
It was the stream's fault. It totally was. Everything's awful. Yes, definitely. Well, anyway, Sam Harris had a lovely take on this, basically saying all these assaults are mock assassinations, whether the perpetrators know it or not. Pies, milkshakes, glitter, etc. revealed the unavoidable weaknesses in the security of their targets and advertise their vulnerability to the whole world. The result is worse than it appears. So what he's saying is that it is a security issue, which it's like, well, and one thing that I would like to point out is that somebody else who actually worked in security debunked this and also said, did these security threats ever result in a real assassination? Which the answer is no. And I find it quite funny how this is painted to be some sort of violent attack. I mean, come on, guys. You got a little cold and sticky. Where, you know? And other people have had even worse takes on this, in my opinion. Seth Andrews. If your solution to important social political problems, which he could have said socio-political, but I digress, is throwing milkshakes at people, you're not an agent for positive change. You're a 6-year-old. So one thing I'd like to point out to Seth is that this kind of protest has been happening since time immemorial. Okay, we have thrown rotten tomatoes, we have thrown just all kind of turnips, eggs, all just the works. Okay, so this is something that has been a political action, may it be a civil disobedience, in order to highlight change that needs to be had in the socio-political environment. A very important one, seeing as these people in the UK that are being pelted with milkshakes, hilariously, are these tough guy right-wing people that essentially want to take away your rights. I mean, when it comes to Sargon, we really don't know what he stands for other than not allowing mosques in the UK. That's about the only political thing that he is.
Making rape jokes is
oh yeah, the I wouldn't even rape you stuff. Yeah.
Racial slurs.
Yeah, racial slurs. And
women are destroying video games.
Yeah, well, you know, that's not really platforms, are they? I mean, can you make a platform on that? Anyway, the fact that he's getting milkshake is fucking hilarious, and I love it. And like, if you want some kind of civil discourse, you're not going to get it with Sargon. Sargon deserves a fucking milkshake. So.
And like, I had someone earlier this week was like, yeah, you don't see it as violence now. But what if you were the one that got milkshaked?
It's like
and I was like,
wife,
hold on. I said, I would just open my mouth and tell them not to get it in my hair. Seriously, how people look at these things as being assault, it's the most ridiculous idea ever. If you're going to push that throwing a milkshake is assault, then I say we just trade them for bricks. Oh, now we understand the difference. It's ridiculous.
I've actually heard people say whether it's a brick or a pillow is still assault. I'm like, okay, that's totally the same thing. Because, you know, pillow fights are totally violent.
It's a milkshake, and it's to cause embarrassment.
Yes.
And these people that are getting embarrassed want to walk around with this tough guy macho, and they get milkshaked, and they're like, oh, you don't know the embarrassment that this is. It's so embarrassing. And it's like, yeah, but you know, you had no problem attacking people from your platform for years, treating people like shit, you don't think they experienced embarrassment? Oh, but it was just words. Yeah, you know what? People get hurt over words all the time. People take their lives over words. So fuck you and your milkshake drenched asshole. I don't care.
It's like with Nigel Farage, the guy that made this huge deal out of immigrants coming in there. Very anti-Muslim, very Islamophobic, fucktard that he is, was too scared to get off the bus because there were people with milkshakes outside. Oh, and this is important. It's important that we see them scared. They need to be scared because they're bigoted fucks.
Yeah, they need to know that we're not going to take it.
Yeah.
And making normal campaigning impossible is what was said in the chat. And if you think there's been anything normal about the anti-immigrant horrific people that's been getting milkshaked, come on. It's 2019. We need to get past these archaic beliefs. And if it takes a milkshake or two, I say so do it. You know, if they're worried about getting wet, take some flour with you as well. Throw the milkshake, then throw the flour, and you take care of it. Now, don't throw the bag of flour by itself. I saw Evans like, you got to open the flour and then throw it. Don't throw a bag of flour.
Well,
in a sack. And then throw a sack of flour?
No, don't throw a sack of flour. Take the flour. Open the bag and then just do that and empty it. Don't throw the sack of flour by itself.
Damn it.
We do not condone the throwing of sacks of flour.
No, we don't.
I condone sex. Just
no, don't have sex with them.
No, I said sex.
Oh, sex. I stand corrected.
Don't have sex with the bag of flour.
I'm gonna protest so hard on you tonight. You're gonna not be able to move for a week after I've protested on your ass.
Giggity. Open your mouth. Open your mouth. Anyway.
Not the hair.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Make some fashy pancakes. Mix up some pancake mix and use that. I have said milkshakes, a milkshake from Burger King or McDonald's, like, I don't know the conversion, but in the US, that's like $4 or $5 for a large one. Like, you can get 2 or 3 jars of mayo and fill up a cup with that mayo, and you've just saved money, and you still have an amazing thing to toss.
You know what? I think what would really just solve this entire argument is if we started making peach flavored milkshakes, and then when they say, "Hey, you can't do the milkshaking," we could say, "Hey, but my freeze peach."
Freeze peach.
Oh my God.
Oh, that was so bad, Snarky.
Shut it down. Shut it down. We need to restart the stream again.
Canceled.
Yes.
Canceled.
No,
I gotta have at least one.
Okay, so to bring this to a serious talking point here.
Well, I think Evans had something to say.
Go ahead.
That's the thing that, to kind of go back what you touched on earlier, is I find it funny that these people who are protesting by milkshake are also the ones that are like, well, we should let the people get up and advocate for genocide and stuff. We got to get these ideas out in the open. These are the same people that think that basically anybody for any reason should be allowed a platform, should be allowed to spew their hateful rhetoric. Mm-hmm. And words can easily inspire real violence. I mean, we know this happens, especially against, look at what happened in the wake of 9/11. And especially after any major terrorist attack that occurs, you can kind of discrimination that goes on, and it's ginned up by these white nationalist, race realist people like that, and like their words are causing actual assault, and yet they're mocking that milkshakes are assault. There's such a disconnect in the way that these people think, because I don't necessarily believe that hurling milkshakes is the best thing in the world. I think it's hilarious. I probably wouldn't hurl a milkshake. And if anybody's listening, if you want to throw a milkshake at me, perfectly fine. The only rule I have is if I catch it, I keep it. So preferably vanilla, but I'm good with anything really. And if it could be malted, that would be perfect. But anyways,
Yes.
it is. It's sad to see these people playing the victim narrative over something as simple as glitter and milkshakes and things like that, and then totally turning a blind eye to the harm that their rhetoric can cause, because it's just words, and words are significantly more powerful than milkshakes.
Oh my God! Like Sam Harris, the guy who says that we should do preemptive nuclear strikes on Muslim countries, that he condones torture, and he's like, oh, but the milkshakes, it's ridiculous, because this kind of rhetoric is what radicalizes people, okay? And we've seen it happen. We've seen terrorist attacks occur because of this rhetoric. They recruit, well, at least the fascists recruit and have these attacks happen the same way. I mean, it might not be quite as organized as ISIS, but they get radicalized online just like people that affiliate themselves with ISIS. This is a problem.
Yep.
So I guess to be a really serious thing, what's the best flavor of milkshake to throw?
Peach.
Like for me, I don't think peach. I think it would be strawberries with chunks. Because then you'd get some color in it. Like it would, it wouldn't just be all white. It would be white and little red stuff. So it would be, I think it
Chocolate.
would be beautiful.
Chocolate, because these people are shit.
Chocolate's not shit.
No.
Yeah, but that would look like shit.
How dare you?
They would look like shit if they were
Look like shit anyway.
Shit shake.
What?
We need to do shit shakes.
Shit
Shake, but with shake.
No.
Nah.
The lawyers are saying we cannot condone shit shakes.
No, we don't do that.
Just put a little poop emoji on the cup.
Hey,
That
fine.
Two
I guess I'll
fascists, one
change
cup.
My plans for Saturday.
Oh my god.
Oh man,
I think the stream dying put us in the Twilight Zone or something.
it did. I am looking forward to seeing the EU election results as they come out. It'll be fun to see just how low Sargon got. It'll be beautiful.
So what do you think, hashtag?
About milkshake violence.
Yeah, milkshake violence.
I do not equate it to assassinations. I know. Bold thought. But, no,
What about glitter?
not the same. No, not the same. There's a false equivalency there.
Well,
Do you think that this form of protest could actually do something positive? I mean,
I think it has the potential to. The problem is that a lot of the people that are getting these shakes thrown on them are so ingrained in their hatred and bigotry that I honestly don't know. Like, these people, when confronted with facts or evidence, don't even change their mind. So
see, I don't think it's about changing their mind. I think it's about giving them this idea that I'm not going to be able to spew this bullshit in public without the possibility of a milkshake coming my way, or sardines. Like, that was amazing when sardines were tossed at Sargon. I thought that was hilarious.
The horse shit was pretty.
Yeah, horse shit was like.
I liked it.
I mean, they really sling poo over there during their elections.
I'm a nasty woman, and I approve the horse shit.
It raises public awareness of the need to keep your horse shit off the streets. And whether your horse shit comes in the packages that horses drop or in the packages that build up to an over 6 feet tall YouTuber named Sargon, you got to keep that off your streets.
Yeah, you do. You really do.
Very true.
Okay, so like equating this to violence, I once dropped a milkshake. Do you think I should have called hazmat?
Yes.
Well, I don't know about that, but how did the ground feel about it?
I don't think the ground really liked it all that well. I think the ants enjoyed it.
I'm just here to say, and this can go on official record, Maddie tried to assassinate Mother Earth.
I tried. It was involuntary. See, you have to look at my intent.
No, I don't.
You have to look at intent.
No, it's assault. Attempted murder. It's
But
it's
heard-
almost assassination.
I've heard
It's
that
only-
everyone has to consider other people's intent. We have to be mind readers.
It's only assault if it is salted caramel flavor.
That's true.
It's oh my.
I'm gonna kill that.
Salt, man.
Oh, it's so funny.
Special thank you to all my wonderful patrons. I really appreciate your support. Also, like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss another snarky video. Don't forget to know yourself and stay snarky.